Shima Kobayashi.
So I play an instrument called a chromatic harmonica. I started learning this when I was 13 years old. The most thing I remember was the sound, really captivating my imagination. Well, at the time, I didn't realize how unusual this instrument is. For me, it was exactly the same. People pick up flute or violin, or I didn't have any idea that I do this because it's different, because it's harmonica. It's just, for me, it was an instrument with a beautiful sound. So it's much later I realized that people have a different perception about the instrument. Then I decided to explore where did that come from, and almost like my own identity, the instrument's identity in relation to other instrument that well known. Prior to starting the chromatic harmonica, I've been playing piano. For me, classical music or Gregorian chant was one of the music that I remember as a child. My mum was a friend with restoring this instrument or creating this instrument. I used to go to the house and full of amazing instruments from all around the world. They used to do concerts, and I was just there, and then I was just feeling this music was my foundation. For me, there was no, I like music because it's a classic. I like music when it's good. The photograph that over there, he's Tommy Riley.
Okay.
He lived in England, so eventually I came to study. I was the last pupil before he died. He was the maestro of this instrument, so lots of people wrote concertos.
Okay, for chromatic harmonica for him to play.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
Which I'm playing one of the concerto in November, so I'm practicing. So idea of me playing this instrument was more like a craftsman. And for me, always making music is like a creator, the composer. My role is to understand the music which been written yesterday or 100 years ago, reading music and playing through it, get the message from the music, like share it with. That complete the cycle of music. For me, that was, I had to have a composer, I had to have an audience to have that. That was my way of existing as a musician. Improvisation, it wasn't something I wanted to do, but it just happened. I got to know this person, and he liked my playing, so he started inviting me. So I got to know a lot of interesting people through his network. That really helped me to getting to know the people, to do things together. So this person usually improvise. Of course I said, no, it's not my thing to do. No. So, but one day, it was in autumn, I did this concert, and in the evening, and on the following day, I usually go straight back to Tokyo, but a lot of the people who stays there, they would explore this beautiful, place around the Mount Fuji. There are 5 lakes, and they're known for a place to visit. So I was kind of persuaded to go to this mushroom picking with them. And so we went. I don't know about you as a saxophone player, I would never apart from my instrument wherever I go. I just don't. So even though you go in the Mount Fuji, I carried my instrument. I thought nobody cares, what I carry. Before you go to the summit, there's we call this a sea of trees, easy to get lost, and so you have to be with somebody who knows the area. And then we were just having a bit of a rest, and suddenly this owner said, "Have you got your instrument?" How do you know? Why don't you play? Well, there is no other option, and that's how I did my first improvisation. It was in the middle of this, like an Amazon, very dark. You can smell the deep mountain tree and smell people just dotted around. I started to play. Yeah, that was how I started it. Always, whenever I do my improvisation, that's where I have my sort of root, I feel like, too.
I mean, you mentioned earlier that the chromatic harmonica makes older Japanese people feel nostalgic. Why is that?
I think two things happening. One is related to recent history, but one is got roots way back. I've been learning this instrument called a shou. It's also called in shem in Chinese, which is a reed instrument.
Yes, it's sort of like a reed organ, is it?
That's
and
right.
you inhale and exhale.
That's right.
In a similar way to
the harmonica.
the
That's
harmonica, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the shem happened in somewhere in Southeast Asia, went to China and developed into this shem, and then they came to Japan about more than 1,000 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
The shem becomes shou. That sound has not been changed since. So somehow I think it's ingrained in our DNA. That sound itself has certain emotional attachment to it. But not everybody plays shou, it's more specialized court music. The other thing about it is because harmonica being so mobile and compact, people bring it to the wars. Often it's harmonica the soldier played it in, thinking about the family. But after the war, very difficult to get anything. So then the harmonica was only instrument to lots of people could afford, so that the sound on its own just invokes memories of how precious it is. And before, people could afford the violin and the piano, and that happens. The harmonica was people's almost only way to express the emotion. I think that's two things making
they
this,
combine to give it a very powerful,
I think so,
sort of impact on people.
I think so. In Japan, that's not a chromatic harmonica. It's got diatonic. It's very different. It's almost the word harmonica just makes people cry. That sort of emotional attachment is less in this country. Here, people are more associating with blues harp or more. There isn't that heavy like a mouth organ. They say Christmas stocking, it's a bit more like a light image. Chromatic harmonica is about just over 200 years old, so it's kind of overlapping this history of a saxophone. I understand.
Yeah, that's right.
But saxophone did very well, because now everybody recognise and part of the established the place as an instrument. My teacher Tommy Riley was one of the pioneer to have the design the harmonica a certain way and materials to use. It's very interesting because the saxophone, it's all both can be in a context of war situation, but a saxophone is go outwards. At the same situation, harmonica is something that after a soldier is doing this marching and on his own, and really
just
intimate.
the nostalgia and the emotions.
Yeah, it's like a yin and yang.
Yin and yang.
Yeah.
And it's also extremely vocal. Do you sing also?
Yes, I sing. I sing in church choir. Singing is very important for me.
Yeah. And do you sometimes use your voice with the harmonica? I think I heard you when we were playing together. Yes.
Yeah. At the time, I think at that particular time, I wanted to use the voice, and I know that the voice with the reed creates certain vibration, and that moment of that improvisation, I think I needed to do that. No, I think children, especially the children I meet, they don't necessarily have music just because, oh, that's the theme music. They take sound as a sound. Part of the workshop, my workshop partner would do just that, they can feel familiar and relaxed about. But my part is the 5 minutes or so, not being confined with any of the image or information or piece of music. I try to block off any of those things, just the sound, wave of sound or pitch of the sound. Like you bring out one element of music, putting in front of them, moving.
Yeah.
And then so the children would just simply be able to react to what's in front of them. So that's the different way of experiencing music. Then they respond over time, and for them that's their way of developing their communication skill. You do things, but you not always immediately have a response to it. Probably week after week they won't be on surface not noticing anything, or just run around or screaming, or sometimes as if
cover their ears.
Yeah, but you just present. Then over many weeks you see the difference. That's why probably I call it improvisers, because I don't really decide what I do in detail. So I have 3 different groups of children. So if kids are already exhausted with other activities, or something happened beforehand and they might be upset with something, I might not present that element of music. So sometimes don't know what sound I'm going to be making until
it comes out.
So you do actually, make a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G probably, but sometimes there's a plan Z, which I didn't know what I'm doing. When I do improvisation, it's always sort of, I haven't really done improvising in groups. Maybe because my original experience, and I never really had let's get together and then improvise, as in like maybe jazz improvisation. I remember doing one with photographer. She had 5 different players. It's called an after image. So she would put image, and in places become pitch dark for us as well. The idea is while these people have the image in their head, after image, and then sound. A few years ago, just before lockdown, I was invited to do a larger improvisation group of things. There are about 30 of them, every possible corner of the world are the instruments there. So there was a 3 days workshops, and then leading into the performance. And players, every one of them amazing players. You know what happened? I had no sound, hardly any sound. That.
How do you mean? You mean everything, all the space was already taken?
I just didn't see the because they're so great. It's all there, and then I didn't really find the reason that I should be adding any more, because everybody's doing brilliant things. I didn't find any of my sound and then be meaningful. Or I was quite curious. And what's come out from my instrument. And then I was generally interested in lots of interesting instrument groups. I didn't have a reason to say no, so I was just surprised with myself. Whatever's happening is great, but I just couldn't find my place in that. I don't think I get called.
You're not going to get called again?
I don't think so. But it was just so interesting for me how I react to this situation. And okay, because then you're expected to find your way through it. This is me. Wow, whoever
Yes.
can musically do this would have a great time. Now I understand that there's a certain structure. Because of having the structure, sometimes you can do lots of things rather than totally free things, But I think maybe I didn't have brilliant idea that I think he might want it at that time, because I think there's so many brilliant idea from brilliant musician anyway. But eventually, probably. More than half of it is then fixed by the time we go to the actual performance. So we have 3 days of giving the ideas and things like that. You're in this basement studio, so I can't just create the melody. Almost like I feel suffocating. There's no natural light. Day 1, idea. Day 2, go back to this basement idea, but you don't have this idea come from anymore, because you're just always facing this so much notes exchange. And on the 3rd day I was all too exhausted, and then I feel like whatever the sound I make, it didn't feel like the true reflection of what I
not like being in the forest and feeling.
It's like almost like the opposite.
Yes.
Of. So that was one experience. And then I came to your improvisation, because I had that experience, and I wonder what it's going to be like this time, because I didn't want to disappoint her. What? She hasn't done anything. I feel really bad with this, because I wanted to contribute, because if somebody asked me to join, of course I want to do something to contribute to the whole thing. I felt like I didn't have anything come out from me. That never happened before, so I was really surprised with myself, and wondered about what's happening. So I came to yours, and but you are really focused on listening side of it, on that improvisation. I didn't know nobody.
Emmy.
Emmy only. Yeah, that's right. I felt like I could breathe, and in and out through music. You are really focused on listening to each other, and the decaying sound. I remember. I was thinking, when she mentioned about that idea, I want a decaying sound. I thought to myself, when people take last breath, do they die with breathing in or breathing out? I think they breathe in and then die. Go, you want to still live, don't you? I don't know, but at the time I thought, I think probably you don't die breathing out. Maybe you die breathing in, and that's how I felt. So that's what I can do with my instrument, because I thought my instrument is the one that I can create sound with breathing in. So whenever she pointed at me, decaying sound, I was keep doing this, and I think she kept on coming back to me wanting the decaying sound. So there were people directing it I could relate to. Again, you want to contribute, you want to have a good evenings, and that was very different experience.
Thank you. Yes.
You gave me this opportunity to think about improvisation. Usually written music, you have a set of things to work from, and with a harmonica, if you just blow lots of holes, you have a C major chord. If you blow and draw randomly, happy music there.
Yeah.
But for me, improvisation is just going to the place that you don't normally go to. It's always unresolved. It's like a mass of things somewhere in here. Time to time you come back to it, and you're not trying to identify what it is or explain what it is. It's just there. Come back, just visiting it. You can't stay there all the time, because that makes you crazy. It's like a daytime and a nighttime for me, my fantasy world, because I'd be able to improvise as in the jazz and try sometimes. I kind of enjoy, and if I live until my 80, that's kind of things I'd love to be able to do. So I had to make a start, but that's again very different from that little place that I visit to. By only improvising it, you can draw out some few things from that mass of things.